Change your heart, change your life, change the planet.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Van Orden out on a very chilly run here in Bennington, Vermont. And I'm having lots of thoughts about this particular workout and how I got out here today. So I want to talk to you about that. Before I came out, I was watching a video called How to Be Brilliant Every Day by Dr. Alan Watkins. It's a rather popular TED Talk on how you can look at heart rate variability and use that as a predictor of well-being, longevity, and the likelihood of you actually getting engaged in a particular task. And I found this talk to be really, really useful a few years ago when I first saw it. But when I was watching it again this morning just to get a refresher, I found that there was something missing. He starts out describing the view of cognitive psychologists, which is that our thoughts determine our behavior. If we're not thinking properly, we're not going to behave properly. If we're thinking negative things, we're likely to seek comfort and not likely to go out and do things like run in the cold. And then he went on to say that our thoughts actually have very little impact on our behavior. They don't really affect what we do because we have all kinds of thoughts about going to the gym, about losing weight, about not eating a certain type of food, and then suddenly we're putting it in our mouth at the very same time that we're thinking, I shouldn't be eating this. This is something I see my family doing all the time. They'll go up to the stove and they'll get seconds as they're saying, I really shouldn't be eating anymore. And then they walk back to the table and I say, you don't have to eat it. And they say, I know. And then they eat it. So thinking and languaging doesn't have a huge impact on our behavior, and I totally agree with this. He says that the levels underneath are emotion, and then underneath emotion is feeling, and then underneath feeling is physiological response. We're not aware of our physiological response. We are somewhat aware of our feelings, and many of us are aware of our emotions, but there's a lot of gray area there that people generally can't distinguish. We're mostly just aware of our thoughts. In fact, some people can't even distinguish between thoughts and feelings or thoughts and emotions. They all get clumped together into one thing called me or my experience. And when you get to tease these out and you see that there's thoughts, there's emotions, there's feelings, and then there's a physiological response, you can start to see the mechanisms behind behavior. So he brought up some really interesting points, but as I said earlier, there's something missing. Because he believes that if you get yourself into a positive feeling state, into a state of greater heart rate variability, which means that your sympathetic nervous system is then balanced by your parasympathetic nervous system. So stress, relax, stress, relax, stress, relax. And that causes the heart rate to be variable. If your heart rate lacks variability, that means your sympathetic nervous system is engaged all the time. And the sympathetic nervous system is that of fight or flight. It's that of aggression. It's that of alertness. It's that of tension. And this is where most people live. They live in a state of constant sympathetic arousal, so they have very low heart rate variability. Whereas people that can relax into a situation, relax into a stressful experience, tease apart thought from feeling and see that there's a space in between, well then their parasympathetic nervous system can get engaged, and on the in-breath you have a sympathetic response, on the out-breath you have a parasympathetic response, greater heart rate variability. But I've found that there's an even more powerful way. You don't need to be relaxed. You don't need to change your physiological response in order to get into action. In fact, I've found that if I wait to change my response, if I wait to change how I feel, then I'm likely not going to do it. For instance, this workout I'm on right now, it's a tough day for me. It's not just the weather, but I'm really freaked out about my finances because I'm going through another round of dental Armageddon, and it's completely bled me dry financially. And this is why I came out with my book, A Compassionate Approach, to try to turn that situation around, to create something that I believe has a great amount of value, and hopefully other people would see the same, and we could have an exchange of value. I give you my best work and you give me a little bit of money in return, and I finish my teeth and I get to keep my studio. Anyway, so what I talk about in that book is essentially what I'm doing right now. I was feeling terrible. I was feeling stressed. I'm freaking out. My finances are a disaster. I'm going in for a root canal tomorrow morning. And there's this tension, there's this sympathetic lock on my experience or my awareness. But that doesn't stop me from getting out and running. And it doesn't take me changing my thinking. In fact, I used to be a big fan of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is the therapy that's probably most commonly practiced now by psychotherapists. And you reframe your thoughts and try to see things in a more positive light. You try to find a more positive perspective. But I'm not really a fan anymore, because what I found instead is that the behavioral aspects underneath the cognitive component are far more effective. So I'm becoming more of a behaviorist than a cognitive behavioralist. So what that looks like is this. I'm totally stressed out today. I'm feeling terrible. I'm overeating. I had so much chocolate you can't even imagine. And I just started feeling terrible. I was drinking juice. I was doing smoothies. It was just a non-stop eating fest, to the point where I was physically nauseous, just trying to comfort myself. And I caught this happening and I realized what was going on. And now that I'm feeling physically sick, I definitely don't want to go outside. It's 20 degrees and windy, the roads are icy, and I've got a million reasons why I'm not going to run. But what I've learned is that if I simply go through the process of getting myself ready and getting myself out the door and taking the first step, even though I feel terrible, I can slowly and gently work myself into a different state. And you might ask, why? Why would I want to slowly get myself ready? Why would I want to slowly or gently get myself out the door? I feel terrible. Why would I even do that? Why bother? And this is the key component, because I've committed to being a certain type of person. And I believe that being that type of person is the most important thing in the world for me. So I've created this template of the behaviors that I want to embody. And if I can regularly engage in these behaviors, then my beliefs and my actual realization as a physical being are aligned, and I feel good about it, even when I'm under stress. Even when I'm freaked out about money, I still feel good about who I am and what I'm doing. And it keeps me doing it, because yeah, there's struggle in the world, and yeah, there's struggle in my life, but I believe in what I'm doing because I consistently take steps and engage in behaviors that I believe promote well-being, not only in myself, but in the world around me. And that means everything to me. And that's pretty much the mission of my life, is to consistently behave in a certain way. And that doesn't mean 24 hours a day, but whenever I possibly can, wherever I become aware that I can change my behavior, I do so. So I got myself dressed, feeling terrible. Negative thoughts, doesn't matter, I'm still getting dressed. Got myself out the door, feeling terrible, doesn't matter, walk. Started my watch, started running down the road, didn't feel great, doesn't matter. And started listening to an audiobook called The Nurture Effect. And I wasn't really able to pay attention to it that well because of all the negative thinking going on. That's okay, doesn't matter, just let it happen. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll go 3 miles. And then 2 miles happened, feeling a little better. 3 miles happened, feeling a little better. Look down, whoa, there's 5. What if I turn left? Let's not worry about distance anymore. Let's just make a left-hand turn. Take a left-hand turn. Part of my brain knows that that means the run is going to get longer, but I don't know how much longer. Before you know it, I look down and it's 8 miles, and I've still got a couple miles to get back to the house. So here I am now, a mile from my house, and it's 10 miles. So this is going to be an 11-mile run. My stomach is fine now. The nausea is gone. The negative thoughts are gone. I'm really getting into this book, and I'm having a great time. I'm having lots of positive thoughts. So, rather than trying to change your thinking, rather than trying to change your physiological response and getting yourself ready physiologically to engage in a particular behavior, just start the behavior. Start it slowly, start it simply, start it gently, and just make behavioral decisions. That's it. And before you know it, a day that appeared like it was going to hell suddenly turned into me running 11 miles and feeling good. And when I get home, I'm going to promote the hell out of my new ebook version of the audiobook, A Compassionate Approach, hoping that that actually makes a difference in somebody's life, and in return, helps me get through my dental drama. Anyway, I love you guys, and I hope there's something in there for you. This approach has changed everything for me, and it's what this book is about. Approaching things from the perspective of compassion and gentleness, and slowly getting yourself engaged rather than fighting with yourself. And it's amazing what I can do now, even on my very worst of days where I'm having a panic attack and I'm eating a pound of chocolate. I'm still out here, and suddenly everything is turned around. Okay? Love you guys.